How would you improve Zomato? If the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this question in a PM interview is the solution, is a dark mode, is some logistical improvement, etc., then I have bad news for you. You've actually already messed up your interview. Yes. Product interviewers, when they ask product improvement questions, they are not looking at the right solutions. Yes, they are actually looking at your ability to figure out a really ambiguous situation, to understand how you can play around with vague prompts and actually solve any particular situation. The fact that we have Zomato and improvement is just a proxy. The real thing that they're looking at, or the real part that they want to evaluate, is whether you as a PM, once you come into their company, can actually figure out any particular random, vague, tough, ambiguous situation and come out with a structural answer to that particular situation. Yes, they're not going to take your brilliant Zomato idea and going to ship it next week. So in the next 14 minutes, I'm going to teach you the exact framework that I have coached over 1,000 product managers and helped them crack roles at top companies like Razorpay, Swiggy, Cred, Meesho, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and many more. So strap in, and this one is going to change the way you answer product improvement questions and ensure that you have the most actionable framework of actually getting a shortlist whenever you face these questions. So before I give you the actual framework, let me tell you where most candidates go wrong. 70% of the folks actually go ahead and talk about the solution. They actually start pitching dark mode, bigger font, better UX, random ideas. Sometimes these ideas can be good, but the moment you become solution first in a product interview, that's it. You are out. And you have to ensure that you remember this every single time you try to appear for a product interview. The second set is people who are too scared of jumping in, people who are too scared of making assumptions. What they do is they ask too many clarifying questions. What is the target group like? What is the bandwidth? Do I have any constraints? Why are we doing this? What is the platform? A lot of them can be valuable, but a lot of them are pointless. And that's why they end up spending 8 to 10 minutes in clarifying questions, and by that time, the interviewer is gone. The last set are people who actually have decent ideas, who actually have interesting directions, who can actually brainstorm very good solutions, who think about very good user personas and journeys, but they actually have no structure. When they communicate, the interviewer just feels lost, and at the end, the interviewer just obviously rejects them. I've seen people make these mistakes over and over again. And the only way you can fix it is by following the framework that I'm going to give you. This framework is easy to understand and extremely repeatable and can be done for any sort of questions: B2B, B2C, Indian product, physical product, American product, you name it. So let's go ahead and deep dive into this framework now. So as we start the framework, let's first understand what the product interviewers are actually testing. The product interviewers test 4 things with product improvement questions. Number 1, structure. Can you take a very vague, ambiguous prompt and convert it into a very well-structured answer that gives them the confidence that you can repeat the same exercise for any given situation when it comes at their job? The second is prioritization. Can you actually say no to your own ideas? Do you have a framework of picking the most impactful thing when you have a buffet of 7 or 8 really interesting solutions? Third is user empathy. Can you actually put yourself into the shoes of another human who you don't know much about and actually take interesting and correct decisions on their behalf? And fourth is, of course, communication. Are you able to sell your ideas? Are you able to communicate them with so much aplomb that the interviewer and in the future your future colleagues just get mesmerized by it and align themselves to it? So 4 things: structure, prioritization, user empathy, and communication. And your job in this interview is to nail all 4 of them perfectly. This is the exact rubric that companies like Stripe, Amazon, Cred, Razorpay, etc. use in their interview. So what would happen is the interviewer would be sitting with a Google Sheet where they will mark you against each of these pillars. So your goal is to knock each of them out of the park the moment you see a product improvement question in your interview. Okay, now the framework. This is the exact same framework that has helped so many people crack top PM roles at top PM companies. There are just 6 components. That's all. Clarify, goals, users, pains, solutions, and prioritize. Not 3, not 4, not 7, not 8, 6. Exactly 6 steps. We will break down each of these steps in this video, but these are the 6 steps that is the spine of your product interview. Now, in the description of this video, you're actually also going to find a Google Sheet that I have prepared exactly for you. What this Google Sheet does is it structures your product improvement interview, gives you an actionable Google Sheet where you have each of these steps written down alongside the checklists for each of these steps. So do make sure that you check the description and click on that link to access the Google Sheet. To complete the entire framework when you're practicing, you should essentially target to do it in 25 minutes. In the actual interview, you're probably going to take 35 to 40 because there's going to be back and forth. But your side of the game, you should ensure that you are able to do it in 25 minutes when you practice. Now let's break down each of the 6 components and try and understand exactly the steps that you need to do to get better and then nail the product improvement question. Step 1, clarify. But here is where most people actually get it wrong. They ask the clarifying questions like lawyers. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that they ask question after question after question without really thinking the importance or the logic behind asking those questions. What is the platform? Are there any challenges that I know? What is the bandwidth like? Is it mobile or desktop? What is the goal that we are targeting? Are we targeting something specific? Now, you feel safe when you ask these questions and you feel like you're covering most bases. But the interviewer actually feels like you're trying to get the answer out of them. So 10-15 clarifying questions is a big no-no. Instead, you should ask your clarifying questions like a surgeon. Now, what does a surgeon do? Basically, you ask 2 or 3 good questions and then go deep inside them. Instead of, trying to get the interviewer to tell you most of the things, what you tell the interviewer is, hey, I'm assuming we're going to target the mobile app users and engagement would be the goal. Does that sound good? What you want to do here is you want to give interviewer a picture of what you think and then get their affirmation instead of just beltering them with questions one after the other. So always remember, when you are clarifying questions in your product improvement interview round, don't ask questions like a lawyer, ask questions like a surgeon. Go cut 1, go deep into it, find something, come out. Cut 2, go deep into it, find something, get out. Right? That's the process of clarifying questions. And once you are done with this, this really sets you up very, very well for the rest of your product improvement round. Step 2, the goal, or as I would call it, the North Star metric for the rest of your interview. Now, for any product, there are 4 broad categories in which your North Star can fall. It can fall under acquisition, bringing new users. It can fall under engagement, getting your users to use your product more frequently. It can fall under retention, getting your users back to your product, or it could fall under revenue, which is making money out of your users. Now, always propose a goal for your interview. Don't ask the interviewer what's the goal. That's a big mistake, and interviewers end up feeling like you're trying to get the answer out of them. So always propose the goal, and it's very simple. Most of the goals in the products that you're going to follow or you're going to see are going to actually lie in the bucket of retention and engagement. I'll tell you why. Most big products would have already cracked acquisition, so they would already be getting users. And revenue is actually a byproduct of engagement and not really a direct goal, which is why you would either target retention or engagement, right? So for companies like Slack, for example, you're going to target their engagement. You're going to target people repeatedly using Slack again and again. For companies like Meesho, Flipkart, or other e-commerce companies, you're going to target retention, which is getting your users back. So there are 2 major buckets, but of course, the logic is for you to talk about these 4 buckets very quickly and then confirm with the interviewer if this is good to go or if this goal is good to go for your product improvement round. Once again, do not ask the interviewer about the goal, propose the goal, and of course, if there is a pushback from the interviewer, you go ahead and brainstorm with them and figure out a goal mutually. But the second step is to figure out the goal that you're going to chase for the rest of your interview. Step 3 is your users. And this is where most underprepared product managers churn themselves out of the interview. Why? Because they look at segments and they make segments by demographics. Gen Z, millennials, boomers, maybe based on their income, city, tier 1, tier 2. But that's not enough, right? What you have to do is you have to add the user behavior in the product on top of this. For product improvement questions, it's much easier because you can break them down into power users or casual users. So for example, for the Zomato question that we have, if you are trying to improve retention as the goal, you can pick power users as your user segment because those people will unlock the most retention if you're able to bring them back. Now, power users means people who use your product regularly, right? Why am I picking just one? Because I want to narrow my scope. So you create 2 or 3 segments like this and then pick one and then chase that segment. To give you another example, if you are trying to chase Instagram stories and improve engagement on Instagram stories, then lurkers whose behavior is to look at the product, check out stories but not post anything would be the biggest unlock because once they start posting, they will actually be more engaged and engagement will skyrocket. So very simple, look at behaviors to create user segments and then pick one segment which you feel has the most potential or most untapped value in correlation with the goal that you had set in the previous step. Now we are through half the framework. We are through with the first step, which is clarifying questions, the second step of setting goals, and the third step of finding users. This is the problem part of the situation, and you're expected to spend 60% of your time here. Why? Because this is what forms the spine of the solution that you're going to get in the second half of your interview, which we are now going to deep dive on. Step 4, pain points. And I'm going to give you a very actionable and interesting framework to find pain points. Most people, when they have figured out their users, start thinking of what the pain point would be for that particular user. But that's an incorrect method of finding pain points. There is a very, very simple framework which allows you to follow the user journey and using that get to the eventual pain points. Any product's user journey can be broken down at 5 pit stops. What are these? Number 1, discover. This is when you are exploring the product and all the options available in the product for you. Number 2 is decide, which is where you decide which action is the most appropriate for you to take inside the product. Number 3 is act, which is where you actually take the action that you had decided is the right thing to do. Number 4 is use, which is where you reuse again and again the same action that you had decided. And number 5 is return, where there is a new thing to discover and you go back to do it. Every single step offers friction. Every single step offers problems. I'll show you how. A very quick exercise. Open the Zomato app on your phone right now and walk with me. When you open, now this is where you are in the discover phase. See, so many options of restaurants available. How do you decide what restaurant to pick? If there is a filter given, if there is a label given, so many labels can mean so many things. Very, very overwhelming. Second, decide. How do I decide which one is the right restaurant for me? You don't know what I want to eat right now. You don't know what I ate in the morning. You don't know what nutritionally I want to eat. That entire decision is on me. So another friction, right? The fact that Zomato doesn't know what I should be eating today. Act. Now, the moment I place the order, I see a delivery surcharge. I see an extra fee. Now that's another friction in the act, which is placing the order. Now reuse. The food comes to me and comes in a proper condition. I'm going to use the app again and again. If it doesn't, friction point. So do you see, in every product's user journey, there are certain friction points among these 5 pit stops, and that is the pain point. Now, if you see products like Byju's, they were famous for having a great onboarding. So the discover and decide was great, but the use was bad because when students used it, there was just so much content and they were drowning in it. Practo has a discover problem. There are so many doctors listed on Practo. Who do you trust? Different apps have different friction points at different places, and you as a PM in this case have to just identify. Very, very actionable, great exercise to improve your product sense. Open the product, create this journey of discover, decide, act, use, and return. figure out friction points at each of these pit stops, and you will become a very strong product person because you would develop that intuition of finding frictions in products with this framework. You need to pick 2 or 3 of the biggest pain points and then move on to the next step, which is to find out the solutions. Now let's land the plane. The next step is solutions, and this is where a lot of candidates actually overperform. They end up listing down every single solution that they can think of and just dump it on the interviewer. Don't be that guy. Imagine a 2x2 grid just like you see on your screen, which is where your solutions have to lie, right? There are multiple options there. It's impact versus effort, which means that you've got some quick wins, you've got some big bets, you've got some money pits, and so on and so forth. The solution that you present to the interviewer should actually be a portfolio, a bouquet of solutions. It should have 2 quick wins, 1 big bet. You should show the fact that you have rejected a money pit. You should also show the fact that you've rejected a filler, and then present that bouquet to the interviewer. For example, if we take the question of improving Slack, a quick win would be better notification grouping or a channel summarizer, right? A bigger bet would probably be an AI agent that actually starts doing the work on your behalf. Imagine you get a Slack message, the AI agent does the work on your behalf, right? Similarly for Notion, quick wins would probably be better templates and refreshing that gallery or better search. Whereas a long-term bet would be a full-blown AI-driven workspace, which is what probably Notion is also doing right now. For a company like Ola or Uber, quick wins would be being more transparent about search pricing, probably a better ETA calculation. Whereas a bigger bet would be a ride-pooling marketplace that actually competes with Rapido on price, right? So you understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to give the interviewer a portfolio of solutions. You're trying to showcase to them that you can think short term, you can think long term, and you can collate this all together into a very beautiful basket for them to look at. All right, step 6, prioritize. Now, this is where you don't need to pick a solution randomly on vibes. You have to actually have a small framework to figure out which is the right answer for you. I personally use a mini version of R.I.E, where I remove confidence and just use reach, impact, and effort. Why? Because confidence is something that you get when you're inside the ecosystem. Predicting confidence from outside the ecosystem is usually pointless, which is why I remove this. Now, what you need to do is you need to spell out the workings that you're doing. Basically, rank each solution that you had on this scale, multiply them all together, and then find the one with the best one. For example, if you were improving PhonePe, which is a payments application in India, and you had 2 solutions. One was bill reminders. The reach would be high, which is because everyone's got bills to pay. But the impact may be not as high, maybe medium, because people already remember their bills and companies send SMSs, etc. to remind them. Whereas if you're trying to build something in investments, the reach may be low because PhonePe is not known for investments, but the value and the impact will be very high because the people who are going to use it are going to get stuck to PhonePe for a long period of time. Now, what you need to do is you need to spell out this logic to the interviewer. You need to say that, okay, the reach for the bill reminders is going to be high, so I'm going to give it a 9. The impact is probably going to be medium, so I'm going to give it a 6, so on and so forth. Don't fret too much about the numbers. Just pick something that is in the high range, in the medium range, and the low range, and then give those numbers, multiply them, and come onto a final score. This final number is the number that tells the interviewer that you can actually evaluate your own solutions critically. And that's a very important part of being a PM. Product managers at companies like Atlassian, Swiggy, Microsoft, Amazon, Zeta, etc. have their own versions of this exact template. And this is the one they use to prioritize solutions when they sit in planning meetings in their real PM work. So it's important that you showcase the prioritization skill in your product improvement question as well. Okay, before I send you off, I'm finally going to tell you the top 4 mistakes that most PMs make in this kind of question, and then give you a pre-interview checklist that you can use before you walk into an interview. The first mistake is, of course, jumping right into the solution, thinking of a solution, not thinking about the user, not thinking about the pain point, and just going into the solution. That is almost a certain rejection. Second, not segmenting users properly. thinking about all your users as a unique blob and just trying to push generic solutions to them. Think about it. A school-going kid in Delhi is very, very different from a school-going kid in Gorakhpur. So how can only age be a factor of user segment? So segmenting by behavior, not segmenting by behavior rather, is the second big mistake. Third, they don't prioritize. They get attached to their solutions, they like them, they feel more is more, and they actually bombard the interviewer with all the solutions that they have thought of. No, cut it out, prioritize. And finally, they miss the metric. The goal that you set in step 2 actually has to be talked about at the end of the product improvement round as well. Now, I'm going to talk about how do you figure out the right metric in another video, but remember, the goal you set in the second step is extremely important so that you have a metric to talk about in your product improvement question. Now, I'm going to specifically talk about product metrics in another video on my channel, but remember, the goal that you talk about in the second step is extremely crucial, and a lot of people actually skip it and go ahead and improve without giving much thought. So memorize these 4 mistakes and avoid them like they were the plague. Alright, before I say goodbye, I'm going to give you a nice checklist to use just before your interview. This has helped so many people at my program at R.I.E, and I want to share it with you as well. The first step is to read about the company. Read their about pages, read any posts that they've done, any blogs that they have, form a mental map of the company. Second, form a mental map of the kind of users you're going to target. This is something that you can very easily do. You can create a user persona. You can create a behavioral persona for that company. Now, you may not necessarily find the same company in your interview question as well, but it really helps going into the round prepared, because if it happens and you get the same company, you get an immediate edge. Third, use their product. Yes, actually download their product, download their app, use their website, spend 15 to 20 minutes on their product. This is actually going to shine through in your conversation with them, and actually is going to be a very big positive if the interviewer notices it. Step number 5 is create a pain point bank. Just observe for friction points using the framework we discussed in this video, right? Figure out where the friction is in discover, act, return, reuse, whatever. Note down 4 or 5 pain points. Again, might not necessarily come into play, but if it does, you've got a great advantage. And last, form a mental makeup of the goal, right? Like I said, not picking a goal is a big mistake that a lot of candidates do. Don't be that person. You can only pick engagement, retention, or maybe revenue sometimes. So there isn't too much to do, but ensure that you have a clear picture that, okay, if they give me this product, I'm going to go ahead with engagement, or I'm going to go ahead with retention. Now, we have actually built a product at R.I.E for our flagship program, which all our students get unlimited access for, which just does exactly this. You put in the company name, you put in the JD, and it gets you absolutely ready for the interviews. Of course, unlimited access for this is available with my program, which I'm going to talk to you about next. Now, thanks for coming this far, and really appreciate you watching this video. But I must tell you, watching this video is probably the easiest part, right? It's just a YouTube video, plug in your earphones and you watch them. Actually applying this is hard, and which is where you require one-on-one mentorship. And that's exactly what my program offers. Check it out on our website, iuda.co.in. There is a form in the description which you can fill, and I will reach out to you personally and discuss with you in terms of where you are right now and how I can help. But it is the only program you need to make your dream of becoming an AI product manager or a product manager a reality in 2026. So go ahead, apply for this using the form, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.